Hey guys, Ponce here, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about some efficient Rek'Sai Tunnel placeage. I'm going to assume everyone kind of has an understanding of basically what the tunnel does and how it interacts with the ult and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be running around the map showing good places to place her tunnels and just kind of ways of hiding them and stuff like that. So we're going to start here in the top lane. Everything is going to be coming from the perspective of the blue lane, or the blue side. If you're on the other side, just flip it and it more or less works. So first, to show something off that doesn't really work all that well, even if you're at the absolute bottom of the brush here, if you try and do it lengthwise in the bush, even if you kind of target here, the whole tunnel thing is going to end up in the middle of the brush here, so that'll end up showing up. You have another option of going to the middle of the brush here, or any of these three brushes. You go right to the middle of it, and then you target the other brush, and it'll technically hide the ends of the tunnel, but there'll be this kind of purple cracked ground here, what makes it fairly obvious that something is there. You know, if anyone's paying any attention, they'll just kind of see that, and that's not very useful. So what you actually want to do, this will work in any of the three brushes here, is you actually kind of go into the, any part, just the edge of it here, and then target the wall. Now since the tunnel obviously can't go off the map, it kind of gets shortened, and it just sort of gets stuck, and sometimes it'll shunt it in one direction or the other. That doesn't really matter. But basically the wall will stop it, you'll get stuck there, and you'll have a completely hidden portal or tunnel system within the confines of a single brush here in the top lane. Now in terms of where you want to place this, or which brush you want to place it in, that depends on how the top lane is playing out. You probably want to watch what they're doing. It's very context-based. So if your top laner is very aggressive, always pressed up against the enemy tower here, obviously you probably want to place it in this brush here, because that'll be relatively safe. No one's going to check it. You'll be able to most quickly counter gank if someone shows up to kill the top lane, because he's always pushed up against the top lane. When top laners do that, they tend to invite ganks from the jungle. Alternatively, if the wave pushes out for a little bit, like he takes a little bit of break and backs off, or even baits something out, you can just immediately ult into this and then come in and get in for a gank. Obviously, the opposite of this is if you have a very passive top laner who's being pushed in, or it's something slightly more even, you can put in a fairly safe tunnel here. Hopefully it doesn't get checked. Especially if he doesn't check it and he comes in to press against the tower here. The enemy's coming in like this, and then you suddenly ult in behind him right here. You have them sandwiched between the tower and your jungler. Your top lane here. Very similar to how kind of an Udyr jungle might teleport in to a ward in this brush. That sort of idea. Now, let's talk about this little brush here. This is another option in terms of if you want to get the top lane quick. This has good utility in the sense that you can come from your side of the jungle into the lane immediately, so it's got good mobility, and it's also close to top for a gank. However, it does have the problem that this is fairly likely to get checked at some point. The top laner is going to come down at some point, most likely, to ward, and he'll probably spot that out. But it's not like he's warding all the time, so that might last for a few minutes. Alternatively, the jungler might be coming straight up and see that and knock that down. But that. This is a very high traffic brush, especially if the enemy is on this side. However, you can do something similar here and hide the tunnel system entirely within the confines of the brush, because it can't go through the wall there. It's too far away. So you just kind of target it like that, and you have a lengthwise tunnel right here like that. So obviously, if someone walks right by, they're going to see this and step on it unless they're not paying attention. But, it's better than just kind of having it in the middle of, the pathway or something like that. Similarly, this is nothing up here is going to be particularly ideal. This is going to get spotted out fairly quickly, but if you really want something here, you can hide it in the corner of the brush and try and sort of semi-hide it a little bit in the terrain. Again, this is obvious because there's this big purple cracked ground, but if they're not paying attention, someone might miss this. And in terms of sort of jungle mobility, this is a nice one here like that. This may or may not stick around. In terms of actually, though, when you really want tunnels to stick around the enemy jungle, the best places are the big objectives with longer cooldowns. Obviously, this doesn't have as long as a cooldown as Baron or something, but take it from your perspective. Let's say, or my perspective or whatever, but let's say my red buff was down here. If I know it's down, I'm not going to be checking my red pit constantly. So long as it's down, most likely no one's going to come here, no one's going to see this, and you have a fairly aggressive tunnel which you can ult to if you want to get over here really quickly. Alternatively, if you have the timer, if you have already stolen this, or you've seen when it got taken down, and you have the timer on their buffs, you can immediately ult in as soon as it comes up, steal it, and then just get the hell out with it with another tunnel of your own. And then so you have the timer and the buff, and they don't. More options in terms of somewhat hidden. I mean, this is a really high traffic brush here, so I wouldn't expect a tunnel system like that to last very long. But again, maybe someone's not paying attention. They might just kind of quickly pass over it. It's semi-hidden in the terrain. So someone has to really not be paying attention for this to last. But it's a thing. Even something like this is better than a completely obvious a tunnel system that that starts here and then ends here, or something like someone's just going to see that and destroy that immediately. You can, of course, also place a tunnel, lengthwise here. This is a really high traffic brush, but, again, better than placing it right here or something, unless you're trying to bait. But, of course, Baron Pit is another excellent place, especially if Baron is still down, or like someone just took it recently. That might get spotted out, but you can place a tunnel right in the Baron Pit, since, if Baron's down, it's less likely to be warded and all that stuff. So, just have something like this, and you can teleport to it, and then recreate a tunnel here, and then suddenly you're over here really quickly. So that's enough for this side. Let's move over to kind of this side of the jungle here. This, or rather, hold on, so let me get over here. This is just kind of easier. Now this area here is going to probably end up being more high traffic once this, or if this, whole, I'm on the public test room right instantly, NA server went down. But, once this comes live, this is going to be significantly less viable. But this area here tends to be somewhat low traffic. So, right now on live server, in theory, you could hide, kind of a little sneaky thing like that, maybe, or, kind of along here or something like that. But slightly more realistically, again, blue, especially if it's down, it tends to be a good place to hide your tunnels. Now I'm going to show you something interesting here. If you start your tunnel here and then want to go to that brush, that actually won't reach like this. See, it's just kind of barely out of range like that. Because that's just how the targeting works with it. However, if you start from this side and then want to go into the blue pit, it'll actually start your tunnel here in the brush. So obviously whenever possible, in the brush is better, tends to be better. And then so you target like that, and then it still shunts me out the other side. It's a longer tunnel, and again there's this whole cracked ground thing which makes it obvious something there, but it's at least easier to miss than a giant mound of crap, it's just kind of sitting in the middle of the jungle like that. So yeah, let's move on to, again, a similar principle with the dragon pit. Anything in here is significantly less likely to be checked if it's not being considered a primary objective, especially if it's back here, something like that. So have a little hidden thing there. You could also try and sneak a little ward in, or not a ward, but a thing in there like that. This brush is obviously extremely high traffic, so someone's going to see that out pretty quickly. But again, better than just sitting in lane. Also, junglers come down here every once in a while, so they're just going to spot that out. More kind of relevant in terms of what ends up working for bottom lane. This is going to be warded a lot, so that's not a particularly high value target in terms of tunneling. But these brushes here, you don't even have to do that whole the tricky business with. Well, it's not very tricky, but you don't have to do that trick where you kind of aim the tunnel into the wall. These brushes are just kind of long enough that you can do that, and they're completely hidden within the confines of the brush there like that. And you can do it in both. Now which one you're going to pick, obviously, again, much like the top lane, is context dependent. It's how the game is going. See who's aggressing where. If your bottom lane is always pushed up and fairly aggressive, you can sneak in a tunnel here. Or if they're it's a bit more neutral, and this is always warded or something, or someone's always walking in there, you can sneak one in here. What I actually like, this is probably one of my more favorite places to put a tunnel, in that around, I'll do maybe a quick, really a long clear or something if I don't have just off my first clear, I'll come back down here. I'll hit about level 5 after clearing everything multiple times without going back. And so I'll hit level 5, and I'll come down here, and then either they won't see me, or this is so early on that, you know, they'll tend to forget what I did. So I'll just be in this brush here. I'll make a tunnel, and then I'll go away, and then you know, like, oh, he just didn't do anything. And then I'll go get level 6, and then, you know, I wait for them to kind of push in, or I'm waiting for like a gank to come down here, and then I just kind of ult in, and I've gotten a lot of kills that way. Now, obviously, when people get more used to Rek'Sai, that's probably going to happen less often. Like, that's be something you expect. You know, so Rek'Sai was in the area. He's probably creating something down here. Well, let's watch it. You know, kind of thing. But for the time being, I've had a lot of success with that early. You know, hit level 6, and you already have tunnels there. It's this kind of idea of you know, planning ahead. Rek'Sai, as I've mentioned many times, is just kind of, it's not. Her ult isn't sort of this fire and forget and win the team fight here kind of thing. It's a lot of planning, you know, setting stuff up like that. And probably the simple, most basic example I can think of is thinking ahead of time, setting up a gank before it's actually a thing, and then, you know, making it happen. So I'm not really going to talk about, you know, tunnels on your own side of the jungle. That's not really all that complicated. You're basically going to be using those for mobility all over the place to, you know, clear faster and stuff like that. So generally speaking, your side of the jungle should be littered with tunnels. If it's not, it probably means you're losing pretty hard and have no control of your own jungle, in which case you're kind of screwed. But yeah, I'll just try and keep those tunnels up when you get the chance. Try and make them as efficient as possible. Again, the name of the game is just sort of thinking ahead, trying to figure out where will be important parts on the map, you know, where you want to fight, that kind of thing. And also, you can never truly hide these, the tunnels, but it's all about just sort of making them as hidden as possible. A lot of the time it's going to seem like a futile effort, but even if like 1 in 10 tunnels just kind of manages to, you know, sneak by a person that's not paying attention, well, it's, you know, 10% more tunnels, right? So just keep at it and pretend you're playing reverse whack-a-mole or something. Anyway, I'll see you guys around, and thanks for watching. Hope you found this informative or interesting or something.